Hi everyone, you're all welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial, I'll be taking you through the process of cutting and stitching this stylish gathered gown. If this is something that you're interested in learning, do stay tuned and let's get started. These are the fabrics that I'll be working with. I have this crepe fabric, it's 1.5 yards, and I have this African print, which is 3 yards. I also have this chantilly lace, it's 1 yard. Alright, so these are the materials I'll be using. I'll start by cutting out the front part of our gown. I'll begin by marking the start line. I came down by 1 inch from the top of the fabric. That line is also going to serve as the shoulder line. I'll place my tape right on the shoulder line and I'll come down by 11 inches for my bust point. Then I'll also mark my waist point of 17 inches and then the hip point, which is 26 inches. Then from that hip point, I'm going to come down by 2 inches and then 1 inch for my sewing allowance. Okay, so the total length of this fabric is going to be 29 inches. I'll go on and mark my shoulder measurement. The shoulder measurement I'm working with is 15 inches divided by 2 is 7.5 plus ½ inch for sewing allowance, and the neck width is 3.5 inches. The neck depth for the back, I'll be taking the neck depth for the back on this front pattern. The neck depth for the back is 2 inches, while the neck depth for the front is 5.5. I'll use my curve rule to create the curve right there. Now at the shoulder point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, which will serve as the shoulder slope. I'll create a line connecting to the neck width. I'll go on and take my armhole depth, which is 8 inches. To do this, divide your bust measurement by 6 plus 1.5. You're going to get the midpoint of the armhole depth. At that midpoint, you come in by ½ inch. And then I'm going to take the bust measurement, divide by 4. I'll mark it right there and I'll be connecting from the shoulder point to the ½ inch point I went in by down to the bust measurement to create my armhole curve, just like this. So this curve is for the front. I'll go ahead and create for the back. So for the back, just go on and create your curve like this. Okay, so when cutting, I'll first of all cut out the neckline and the armhole for the back before cutting that of the front. So now I'll go on and take the remaining body measurement. The waist measurement I'm working with is 34 inches divided by 4. I'll mark it right there. Then the hip measurement, I'll cross-check the hip point of 26 inches. The hip measurement I'm working with is 41 inches divided by 4. I'll go ahead and mark it right there. And at the hip point, I'll be adding ½ inch. You don't need it to be very tight at the hip, so just add ½ inch for a bit of ease. Then I'll add my sewing allowance of 1 inch. I'll extend that line down and I'll go ahead and connect the remaining points. If you have watched to this point and you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please do hit on the red button to subscribe, like, and also turn on your post notification bell so you're updated whenever I post a new video. Also leave a comment. If you have a question, you can drop it in the comment section. I forgot to add sewing allowance to the waist and to the bust, so I'll be doing that now. I'll be adding 1 inch sewing allowance and I'll go on and connect the lines. I'll go over to my shoulder and I'll be marking the sewing allowance for my shoulder using ½ inch. I'll connect the lines. The next thing is to cut it out. I'll first of all cut out the back neckline and also the armhole for the back. I'll place it on my back fabric, cut it out before I'll be retracing the front. So I'm cutting out the back neckline like this and the armhole. So this is the fabric for the back. I've gone ahead to mark my zipper allowance. As you can see, it's there. The allowance I left for my zip is 1.5 inches. I'll be placing the front pattern on it. And I'll go on and cut out the back neckline and also the armhole. I'll later retrace the front neckline and armhole, and I'll also be marking the points, the bust point, the waist point, and the hip point. Then I'll go ahead and remove the front part of our gown. I'll make a straight line across the points. Okay, then I'll be taking my dart, which is the measurement from one nipple to the other nipple. Mine is 8 inches. I went ahead to divide it by 2, which gave me 4 inches, and I also added ½ inch for sewing allowance, making it 4.5 inches. I marked it at my bust point, waist point, and hip point. I'll roll a straight line connecting this point. At the waist point, I'll go out by ½ inch and come in by ½ inch. Then at my hip point, I'll go up by 2.5 inches. That's where my dart leg is going to stop when sewing. I'll mark out my lines like this. Okay, so this is what I have. The next thing is for me to eliminate zipper bulge at the waist point. Doing this is going to give you a very perfect zipper at the back part of your dress. At the waist point, I'm going to go in by ½ inch. Just the way you see me doing it, just go in by ½ inch. I'll go on and retrace the line. Remember, the zipper allowance I left is 1.5 inches. So I'll be replacing that 1.5 inches at the waist point. Now the new measurement started from the ½ inch that I came in by. So you can see how I went ahead to replace that 1.5 inches again. So this is our new zipper allowance. Okay, so this is what I have. I'll go on and take my round body measurement. I'll divide my bust point by 4. I'll mark it right there and also add my sewing allowance. I'll divide the waist measurement by 4. In doing that, you're going to place your tape from that ½ inch zipper allowance you came in by. Okay, so I'll go on and mark it. And I'll also be replacing the 1 inch dart that I took at the waist point. Then I'll add my sewing allowance of 1 inch. I'll do same thing at my hip point, divide it by 4, divide my round hip by 4. I'll mark what I have and I'll also add my sewing allowance. I'll go ahead and mark all my lines. Now remember to add your ½ inch just the way you did for the front hip at the back. You don't need the hip part to be tight on you. I'll connect all my lines like this, bringing it down. I'll go on and cut out the neckline for the front and then also the armhole. I'll cut it out like this. So now I'm going to be creating facing for the front and the back part of our gown. I'll fold a piece of fabric into 2 like this, and I'm going to place the front part of our gown on it. Okay, make sure you have up to like 4 inches at the bottom part, and then at the up part I measure 3 inches. I'll go on and trace the neckline and trace the shoulder part. I'll remove it and then I'm going to create it like this. So this is what I have as a facing for the front. When you place it like this, you just sew it using ½ inch. For the back, I'll also go on and fold into 2 another piece of fabric. I'll place the back part of the gown on it. I'll make sure I have enough allowance down, up to like 4 inches down. I'll mark 3 inches at the shoulder. I'll trace out the neckline. Subscribe to my channel if you have not. Hit on the red button and also like our videos, okay? Thank you. So now I'm going to be sewing the dart, all right? And also don't forget to stop 2 inches above your hip, okay? Stop 2 inches above your hip when sewing your dart. I've gone ahead to replicate it at the other side. I'll take it over to my sewing machine, hold it like this and sew it. I'm done sewing the dart and this is what I have. Remember, the dart is just at the back part of our gown. I'll be turning the neckline using the facing that I cut out earlier. I'm going to place it like this. Make sure it's right face facing each other. You go over to your sewing machine, use ½ inch to sew it down. I'll do same thing with the front part of the gown. Alright, just place it like this, right face to right face. use 1/2 inch to sew it down. After sewing, notch before turning it. I'm done sewing and this is what I have. So I'm going to be attaching my zipper next. You know, this fabric we are working with is a crepe fabric, which is a stretchy fabric. It's a bit stretchy. So when working with stretchy fabric, I'm going to advise you to always add paper stay to your zipper allowance. This is going to prevent you from having that wavy effect that you see at times on dresses. Is not good. So to have a steady and a smooth zipper, what you need to do is to add your stay. I usually use paper stay. So I'm going to open it up to the point where I want my zipper to stop before attaching the zip. The next thing I'll be doing is to join them at the shoulder. I'm going to place the front and the back right facing each other. Then I'm going to pick the lining part from the back. I'll wrap it to the front and I'll use 1/2 inch to sew it. I'm done sewing and this is what I have. You can see the zipper. You can see how smooth and neat our zip is looking. Okay, so this is what we have. And also this is the shoulder point. You can see how neat it is as well. Now the next thing I'll be doing is to cut out the sleeve. I have a very detailed tutorial on a basic sleeve pattern. This is just a basic sleeve on the channel. I'll be linking a card and I'll also be dropping a link in the description box. Okay, because this is a black fabric, you might not really see very well what I'm doing. I'm taking the length of the sleeve. Measure from your shoulder to where you want your sleeve to stop. Mine is 22 inches. I went ahead to measure that length, and I'll also take my sleeve cap from the top. I came down by 4 inches. I'll take my gown and I'm going to measure from the shoulder point to the armhole depth at that point. I have 8 inches. So I'm going to come over here and I'll mark that 8 inches like this. I'll rule a line across. Now I'll find the midpoint of this 8 inches, which is 4 inches. Okay, at that 4 inches point, I'm going to go up by 1/2 inch and I'll create a curve like this. Now I have the armhole curve for the back. To create that of the front, at that 4 inches point, I'll go down by 1/2 inch and I'll create my curve connecting it like this. I'll go on and take my elbow measurement, which is 13 inches. Then I'll take my round bicep, which is 6 inches. I'll add 1 inch for sewing allowance, or 1.5. At the elbow, I'll mark what I have there as well. I'll divide it by 2. Okay, and I'm going to create my lines down to the wrist. Your round wrist, whatever you have, divide by 2 and you mark. Now I've gone ahead to cut 2 sleeves. Okay, so these are the 2 sleeves that I have. The next thing is to create the flare at the wrist. This is not a 180-degree flare. I tried using 180-degree flare. It was too big. So this is more of a 90-degree flare. You're going to fold it in an A-line shape like this. Okay, measure what you have at your wrist. Divide that by 2 and you're going to place it at the top. Add 1 inch or 1.5 inches for your sewing allowance and create a tiny curve right there. Then you're going to take the length of your flare. Mine is 7 inches plus sewing allowance, and I'll go ahead to mark it all round. Okay, following the lines, I'm going to mark it like this. When I'm done, I'll rule a line like this and then join the points together. At the end, this is what I have. Okay, go on and add 1/2 inch at the top, which will serve as your sewing allowance. I'll cut it out. I'm going to cut out 4 pieces of this. I'll be using the Ankara for the lining as well. You can use your lining fabric if you want, but I want to use Ankara. So 2 for each sleeve. Next, I'll be joining the bodies, the right face facing each other, and I'll be using my sewing allowance to join it together at the sides. Remember, the sewing allowance I left is 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that 1 inch at the bust, the waist, the hip, and I'm going to connect it all the way down. I'll take it over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew it down. I'll also sew the other side as well. I'm done sewing it. This is what I have. Now the next thing is for me to attach my sleeve. Okay, before doing that, I'll measure what I have at the armhole. The round armhole together, I have 10.5. I also measure the other parts, which is also the same thing, 10.5. I'm going to place that 10.5 at my sleeve. Okay, I'll go on and measure the sleeve like this, and I'm going to stop at 10.5. I'll go on and take the rest measurement all the way down. The bicep, which is around 6 inches. My round elbow, I'll go on and mark everything is 5 inches, and the wrist is 3.5. So I'll connect the lines. I'll go over to the sewing machine and sew it down. Then for the flare, what I'm going to do is to join it at the side using my sewing allowance. Okay, so I'm going to fold each of it like this. I'll be joining the lining separately, and I'll be joining the main fabric separately as well. So I'm going to use my round wrist measurement, which is 3.5, 7 inches divided by 2, 3.5. But I'm going to be adding half inch, making it 4 inches. Okay, this is going to give it ease so your hand can easily go into the sleeve. Right, I'll do same thing for all the parts. I'm done joining the sleeve, and this is what I have. I've also joined the flare. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pick out 2, which will be used as lining, and I'll reduce it by 1 inch. All right, I'm doing this to prevent it from peeking out. This to give us a neat finishing at the edge. So the lining is 1 inch shorter than the actual fabric. I'll go ahead and turn the main fabric to the right face, just the way you see me doing. The lining is going to remain like that, and I will be inserting it into the actual fabric. At the end, it's going to be right face facing each other. I'll go over to my sewing machine. Make sure they are aligning very well. Okay, make sure every side is aligning well. I'll go over to the sewing machine and I'll use half inch to sew it all around. After sewing, make sure you notch. Okay, just make small cuts all around it. This will help it to relax very well when you turn it to the right face. Trim the excess. After trimming the excess, I'll go ahead and turn it to the right face. Just go on and pull it out like this from the top part. After pulling it out, then you go on and turn it inward like this. Okay, just follow how you see me going about it. At the end is what we have. You can see that there is no rough edge on the inside. Then you turn it inward. Everything is neatly done. All right, so I'll go on and I'll hold it with my pins at the top. Make sure everything is well aligned. After doing that, I'm going to be joining it to the basic sleeve. To do that, all you need to do is to turn it like this. Just watch how I'm going about it. Turn it in like this. Okay, and then you align it well. Make sure they are aligning at the sides. Then use the pins to secure it properly. You go over to your sewing machine using half an inch, you sew it round. I'm done sewing, and this is what I have. Right, this is what our sleeve is looking like. Now I'll go on and attach it to the gown. I'm going to bring it together like this. Okay, align it at that point. I'll use my pin to secure it, and I'll take it to the shoulder point. All right, like this, and I'll turn it in this way. I'll use my pin to secure it as well. You can go on and secure all round. Make sure everything is well aligned. Okay, I'll secure it like this, and also at this point. I'll go over to the sewing machine and I'll sew it round. Now I'll be cutting out the Ankara for the gathered part of my gown. To do that, I went ahead to cut out 2 yards of African print. Okay, this is what I'll be using to create my gathers. You can also multiply your hip measurement by 3, depending on the volume that you want. So now I went ahead to fold my African print like this. First into 2, and I went on to fold it again, making it a fold of 4. I'm doing this so you can see it very well. Alright, so from the top, I'm going to be coming down by 20 inches. So I'll mark 20 inches. You know, the length of Ankara is 45 inches. So I'll be able to mark 20 inches, cut out 20 inches in 2 places. So after cutting out these 20 inches, I'll still go on to cut out another 20 inches. Alright, so after cutting out, I'll be joining them together. I'll go on and cut it out like this. So these are the 2 pieces that I have. Now I'll be joining it together at the sides, okay? Right face facing each other, right face to right face, and I'll go over to my sewing machine. I'll sew down using 1/2 inch, just like this, down. Now the next thing is to attach it, create my gathers and attach it to the gown, the upper part. If you see, I've also gone ahead to weave the top part of my Ankara. After weaving, I had 19.5 left, and I also went ahead and used 2.5 inches to hem the fabric. So the new length of my fabric is 17 inches. I'll be coming down by 1.5 inches at the top. Okay, from the top where I weaved, I'll be marking 1.5 inches. This is where I'm going to be sewing. This is where I'll be adding to the upper part of our gown. I'll go ahead to make gathers, okay? Now, you can run a loose stitch all around your fabric, or you can gather directly on your gown. I tried running a loose stitch. My thread kept cutting, so I decided to pleat it, gather it directly on my gown, on the upper part of the gown. What I did in order to get equal gathers all around the gown was to mark the midpoint of the upper part and the midpoint of the Ankara. I also did the same thing at the back and at the sides as well. All right, I used my pin to hold them down at the midpoint, the back, the front, and then at the sides. I used my pin to hold them down before making my gathers. Take note of how I'm placing my Ankara on the crepe fabric. Okay, I'm placing it on the right face. All right, I'm placing it on the right face, and that 1.5 inches point that I marked using my chalk is where I'll be sewing. All right, so we are going to have excess at the top part. That's how the style is. Okay, we are going to have excess at the top part. The full length of the crepe of the upper part of our gown is 28 inches. We cut out 29 inches. I used 1 inch to hem it, okay, leaving us with 28 inches for the upper part. And for the down part, which is the Ankara part, we have 17 inches left. I remove 1.5 inches. That's where we are going to be sewing on. So what is left now at the down part, when you use 1.5 inches to sew, is going to be 15.5 inches, making the full length of our gown to be 43.5 inches. So this is how I'll be placing it, like this. All right, look at how I'm going about it on my sewing machine. See how it's placed on the upper part of the gown, and I'm making very tiny pleats. So this is how I'm gathering the Ankara on the crepe, making really tiny pleats. All right, so I'm going to go about it like this all round. This is how I'll be sewing it all around to create that gathered effect that we can see on the thumbnail. And you can see the excess we have at the top part. I'll continue to make my gathers all around the fabric. At the end, this is what we have. This is our gathered, stylish gathered gown. Thank you guys for staying with me to this point. Subscribe, like, comment, and turn on your post notification bell so you're updated when I upload the next video. Bye.